Hello and welcome to episode 48 of the Dynamo Football Book Club. My name's Al Bond and vaffanculo, Johnny Coughlin.
Vaffanculo.
Apologies to any Italian listeners, as that's very rude. It means fuck off. But Johnny, you would never tell an Italian to fuck off, would you?
Who knows what could come up in life?
Okay, so this week we're doing A Season with Verona by Tim Parks.
Attenzione perché lui che riceve la palla in mezzo, cross, miracolo di Ferron, miracolo, non c'è altra parola su Dionigi, Ferron, incredibile, miracolo su Dionigi.
It is an analysis of a full season, the 2000-2001 season of Hellas Verona, written by literary bad boy Tim Parks. And this is a lovely comparison piece to our last book, The Miracle of Castel di Sangro, because again, this is following a whole season of an unfashionable Italian football team. Johnny, were you familiar with the author before? Had you ever heard of Tim Parks whatsoever?
Part of me thinks I have heard of the name, but I can't say that with confidence. So let's just say no.
Okay,
But you're a fan, right? You're a Tim Parks fan.
Yeah, I was a fan, Johnny. I mean, when I was a younger man, when I read to improve myself, which I can assure you I no longer do, he was seen as like a bit of a literary, a British literary like Philip Roth or like a John Updike. He's certainly from that range, sort of like a middle-aged man who's horny and he's not afraid to talk about it. And I think that's fair, isn't it? And but yeah, I did read some of his novels, and Johnny, they're fucking brilliant, or at least I remember them being fucking brilliant. There was a book called Europa, which was Booker Prize nominated, which I think was about a horny teacher. And then there was a really excellent book, which I think in my 20s I counted as one of my favourite books ever, called Cara Massimina, which was about a horny English teacher traveling through Italy. Yeah, man. But I really, really love these books. So when this book came out, I read it before, but not for 20 years. Yeah, I got to say, I mean, I loved it at the time, and I don't want to get into if I liked it yet. But yeah, rereading it certainly was a fabulous comparison piece to The Miracle of Castel di Sangro. And The Miracle of Castel di Sangro is fucking referenced. I was whooping when that came up.
Yeah, that was fun, wasn't it? The actual reference, I have it here. So Parks doesn't get quite the same access to Verona as Joe McGinniss got to Castel di Sangro. But at one point, he does get access to the players and to the executives, maybe a few times over the course of the season. But the first time that kind of, not the big boss, but the second guy says to him, we have to be a bit careful. There was, in Castel di Sangro, they let an American writer come. He stayed for free and then he wrote, quote, unpleasant details about their private lives. Which I just thought was such a nice way of putting it. And by the way, Al, just because a couple of people pointed it out to us on Instagram, that Gravina, who was the chairman of Castel di Sangro, is now the head of the Italian Football Association. Did you know that? I didn't know that.
No, I didn't know that. And like the famously corrupt Gravina, who is absolutely portrayed as being nothing but corrupt in all through that book. No, very, very Italian.
That's stuff Lewis sees, and Dario Perkins told us this on Instagram. Okay, this is the third book we've read. Maybe the fourth book we've read about Italian football. Fifth. So we've read Totti, we've read Gaza in Italy, and we've also read a Maradona book, which obviously spends a good bit of time in Italy. But by golly, we learned a lot more about Italy and the kind of the place of football, calcio, in Italian life from these last two books than we ever did from any book written by an actual footballer. No, the Gaza book was absolutely fantastic. The Maradona book was fantastic. The Totti book less so, but there's just so much more to these kinds of books for some reason.
Well, this all the other books have been about the players, but this book is more about the fans. He told his wife that he wanted to follow every single game for Hellas Verona in the 2000 and 2001 season. And he said he'd write a book about it. And he also says that's the only way his wife would agree to let him do so.
He is a horny teacher traveling up and down Italy. The wife probably has every reason to be a little bit suspicious of his motives. But sorry, go ahead.
All right, quick side note. So there's an article recently written in The Guardian, and it's written by Tim Parks, and it's about his children now reading his books as adults and how awkward that must be. Okay, and in one of his books, this is a quote from the protagonist. Oh, it's from Cara Massimina, which is about the horny teacher who eventually turns into a serial killer. Why would I ever teach at a university if not to have a constant supply of fit young women to shag? And he literally works at a university where he says 80% of the language students are young women. How can... It's the separation between the art and the artist. You know, I've often wondered this about writers, and I think people are more and more judgmental about this stuff, but like, what's his kid? His kid's called Michael or Miguel. What is he thinking? Like, Dad, you dirty.
He describes his own son as morose in the book. He does a bit of a drive-by on his son. His son is just... It's terrible how he describes the son at various points. I don't think he means it to be, but he writes him as, a morose and quite sad character. It's horrible. Sorry, I like cut across you. I took you off on a tangent there. Do you know what you were saying before I took you on that diversion?
Absolutely not. But let's just very quickly, he's chosen a particularly interesting team to follow because Hellas Verona are very much the Italian equivalent of Millwall. They are the most hated team. They have a reputation for being enormously racist. It adds an extra element because you really are seeing the worst of the people. Now, I can't claim this, but man, he is in love with these lads, isn't he, Johnny? He is in love with these.
Yeah, there's a very interesting, psychological profile to be written about him. It's like, you said that book, the writer becomes a serial killer. I did actually think like he was playing out some kind of, like dual personality, fantasy, alter ego thing, just being around these guys.
Oh, he completely loses himself in it. I read a review written at the time, and I think this is absolutely fair. He talks about his love for the supporters, who are known as the Brigate Giallo-Blu, which means the Yellow and Blue Brigade, Hellas's colours. The reviewer, whilst stating that it's a wonderful book, states that Tim Parks completely loses his moral perspective throughout the season. And he absolutely does. He's on a train at one point, and one of the Brigate, one of the fellow supporters, gets off the plane, and there's a couple kissing on the
platform.
Yep. And this fella goes up and punches the lad kissing the girl. And like by this time, and we're a long way into the book, Tim Parks is like, this kid, he's a bit of a wild one. It's like, no, he's a complete fucking thug who's completely ruined someone's year. And you're like, oh, look at him.
I think what he says, we had to move on before any real violence happened. This is a fella just at the train station with his girlfriend. I think to him it probably was real violence, getting smashed in the face. The guy felt like the guy was knocked down, Yeah, that was something.
No, that's something that stays with you for the rest of your life, isn't it? It was something that stays with you for the rest. Every time you kiss your girlfriend on a train platform again, you're looking around. Am I going to get decked by some lovable racist fan?
But there's a few points in the book. He says something at one point where he says he's confronted by a police officer. The police officer grabbed him by the wrist. I can't remember what game it was at. And he says, I'm pretty sure I could have taken this police officer. Hold on there, Tim Parks.
It's brilliant. No, there's another bit. And because Hellas have this reputation, I think they do get extensive attention from the police. But by the end, like they say, there's bottles and there's one particular game again. I can't remember which one, but there's bottles and stones raining down on them. And he's like, I didn't feel any fear. I was just loving it. He was totally radicalized. Like, It was like the movie ID. Do you ever see that?
I was just going to mention it though when you said it. That is a film that I guess Green Street and those things were trained to be. That's a fantastic film. At least it was when I saw it 20 years ago.
Exactly. What? Yeah, it was when I watched it like 25 years ago. Would it still stand up now? I don't know. But yeah, it would be fair to say Tim Parks is fucking Shadwell Army, isn't he? He's Shadwell Army all the way.
You've set the scene there. So Tim Parks is he's an English guy, the son of a vicar living in Italy, married to an Italian woman living in Verona. Verona famously is the scene of Romeo and Juliet. Two Gentlemen of Verona. Is there any more Shakespeare plays in Verona?
I'm the right man to ask, Johnny.
This is not a Joe McGinniss situation. He hasn't just picked this team out of the sky. He is already a diehard Verona fan, Hellas Verona fan. But he makes this decision, and as you say, he negotiates with his wife that he's going to go on the road. So he's not just going to go to the home games. He's going to travel the length and, to a lesser extent, the breadth, because I guess you don't travel across Italy so much, but certainly the length of Italy. And the first game is in Bari, which is right down in the heel of the boot, and Verona's right up towards the top. So that's the scene. So what shall we just get right into it, Al?
Let's do it. Yeah, so in this book, it follows the whole league season. There's 34 games and there's 34 chapters. The first chapter describes him travelling down to watch his game against Bari. So he gets his ticket for the bus from this bar Zanzibar, and that's his crew. That's the Zanzibar crew of the people he travels with, and that's who the book is dedicated to, the racists and thugs of the Zanzibar.
I think there's a Zanzibar in every city. That must be the most common bar name of all. But yes, people should write more of these books out. And I think maybe we gave a space in the previous episode for people to consider not listening on if they wanted to avoid spoilers. But they should do that with this as well. Because it's a heck of a season. Maybe not as many twists and turns as we saw in the last book, Castel di Sangro, but my God, is there some denouement to it, isn't there?
It's an absolute page turner. That's it. I was on a cruise ship with the wife reading this book, and she's like, "Are you going to go and play on the beach with Luna?" My daughter, and yeah, just 23 more pages. Hang on, just let me get that. I just had to find out in case on the beach someone spoiled it for me how the 2001 Hellas Verona season turned out. You know, I didn't want to accidentally hear some American go, "What an incredibly end to the season that was in 2001. Oh, mate, yeah, it's absolutely riveting. It really is. It's brilliant.
But what you said, and I think this is accurate, you said that the other books that we've read were about players, you know. Obviously, we read a lot of autobiographies, and they're by their nature about the player. But even the Castel di Sangro book was primarily, there are differences here. Joe McGinniss was a crazy man who really probably be the quickest convert ever to being a footballing ultra, perhaps. But that book was mostly about the players. This book was about fans, being a fan. The absolute absurdity of it, I think, is the term he uses at one stage. And just a whole pile of interesting stuff about the kind of confusing nature of Italian life and Italy generally. It's really fun. It's a pile of fun, this book.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly veers towards pretentiousness about what being a fan experience is. Can you imagine a fan on your own? Like, it would be like the only worshipper of a god. It would be the only speaker of a language. But it's such yummy, delicious pretentiousness that I ate it all up. And I was like, yes, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. This is how I feel.
But if you want to sound philosophical or intellectual, I guess you just compare football to anything, because he just does that at every point, you know, comparing football to politics, comparing football to religion, replacing religion with football, and all of these things. You know, it seems like an easy enough thing to do, but it's all interesting. I loved it all. I loved all of that.
Oh, and he's a true believer, isn't he? He talks about the way politicians in Italy use football analogies to talk about it. And they're like, what? Why does he do that? He goes, because these politicians are men and football is the most interesting thing they've ever been involved with. And it's like, yep. You're right. That's why.
Do you see much of yourself in Tim Parks? I'm not talking about the erudition necessarily, but in the depth and the intensity of his feeling. Because we said that McGinniss really fell hard for Castel de Sangro, but I think Tim Parks, he lives football in a very, very deep way.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if old McGinniss went home and then didn't check the results. But this is a man who's totally in love with the game. In fact, he was recently asked if he'd write another book, but he says he just doesn't have the energy now because he's 70. So,
and also, Verona are third from bottom in Serie A. So perhaps it's better that he stays away for a while.
That's how he loves it most, though.
Well, that's it. And, I'm a Manchester United fan now, so I've lived through all of the glory years, 90s onwards. But I've never lived I'm an Ireland fan as well, so it's not like I haven't experienced, not seen the bad side of football. But that roller coaster, because again, like Castel de Sangro, what's at stake here is the same. He doesn't use the expression, we don't hear it, El Salvatio, salvation. This is a relegation battle, but my God, what a roller coaster of emotions relegation is. You've obviously been through this loads of times.
Yeah, it would be fair to say that being supporter of Nottingham Forest is very much a roller coaster situation at the moment. Sean Dyche. Oh, God. But absolutely. And yeah, the fear of relegation is just, it is like a death. I mean, it's the death of your dreams. it is a bit, but just the prospect of having, for a team like Verona, it is the prospect of playing fucking Castel de Sangro as opposed to AC Milan. It really is a world of difference. Yeah, man, and he is so very, very invested.
There's 34 games, 17 away days. We obviously don't need to go through them all, but there are some real highlights. And okay, first of all, let's talk about the Verona team. How many players had you heard of? Adrian Mutu, Martin Larsson.
Gilardino, Camoranesi, World Cup winner. Odo, World Cup winner. I mean, he was supporting a hell of a team, wasn't he? They were some amazing players. Oh, just the names that pop up in this book. Like, Italian football at that time was absolutely the business, wasn't it? Oh, it's just amazing names. There's like one time where they're playing lowly Parma and who keeps fucking thwarting them? Buffon. I was just like, woo! Kalina pops up. Lovely Kalina. Lovely to see his name.
Massimo Taibi. A turn right at the very end in the actual, like, the kind of curtain call match, absolutely amazing. By the way, Geraldino, another parallel, maybe I'm racing ahead here, but another parallel with Castel de Sangro. As you remember in Castel de Sangro, this tragic situation where there was a crash and two of the players died. Gilardino was in a terrible crash on this, but he drove his car into a canal and managed to swim out of the car and save his two passengers. That's amazing.
And then go on to be one of Serie A's leading scorers. It is amazing. There's some fabulous details in this.
There's a couple of funny threads in this book. He keeps talking about an attack on a Uruguayan man.
Marsiglia. Tim Parks believes that unfairly the city of Verona is getting a lot of attention for its racism because of this attack. And then he tries to tie this into the absolutely wildly racist supporters to sort of excuse them. And he is on shaky ground with this. He is on shaky ground. There's a lot of talk about monkey chanting. And he's saying this Jewish teacher is going, this Jewish teacher, he would love it if they monkey chanted him. He's really blaming him for being a victim.
Like I said earlier, the language is kind of funny or uncomfortable maybe.
Yeah, there's certainly one point where he states that the New York Times have sent a photographer to photograph the racist fans. And he goes, of course, they sent a black. Not even a black photographer, of course, they sent a black. And that was jarring, wasn't it?
Yeah, there's a few of those things I thought, like, I don't know, like maybe also we can be too forgiving to say that was of its time, but was it of its time? Is that how people spoke then? Is it? I honestly don't know. He's a English university lecturer living in Verona. This is an educated man. He knows not to be speaking like that, regardless of the time.
It's condescending. He's like, oh, these lads, they can't help being racist. They're just, simple Italian folk. It's not their fault. But I think we have learned subsequently that actually people can improve and they can be stopped from doing these things. It was like, you remember there used to be the Yid thing at Spurs, and like it was always Yid Army, and we need to get rid of this. And this was like 10 years ago, and I was like, well, good luck with that. Good luck. But they did, right? They did get rid of it, and people don't do it anymore. And I think he doesn't believe that people can change, or these lads are just too thick to improve as people. And so for that, I found it a little bit condescending. But also, they are absolutely embroiled in racism. And as you say, they bring it up, and they're just the Mihailovic and Vieira stuff. So Mihailovic, vile Mihailovic, by the way, calls Vieira a fucking monkey. And Vieira says, what really offended me was that he really meant it. You could see it in his eyes. And that was chilling, right? Just awful. Also, Mihailovic then plays in the Pope's Game of Peace. But then Mihailovic goes, oh, I'm proud of being a gypsy. Why is Vieira, ashamed of being a black? And it's like, fucking, that's not the point. You called him a fucking monk. Oh, Jesus. Yeah, I mean, it's gross, man.
Yeah, that stuff is gross. But that kind of theme is there through. And Parks is, at the very best, he's an apologist for this behaviour. And he does say funny things. He describes these thuggish characters. It's like, oh, he's just a lovable imbecile, that kind of thing,
He gets funny stories out of it. So there's one point where the Italian Federation threatens to close down Hellas's stadium if the monkey chants continue. So the fans, cleverly, I'm doing air quotes, repurpose Mutu's name just so they say Mu-oo in a monkey chant way. And he's like, that's clever, isn't it? And then there's another time where the other fans are trying to stop the monkey chants by whistling over it, but Tim Parks sees this as a very funny game. Someone starts monkey chanting, and then another part of the ground starts whistling to cover the monkey chants. He's like, is it covered? Are they going to close down our ground? He makes it a big joke, and it's obviously awful. Yeah. But yeah, there we are.
Anyway, let's move on, because it's there throughout the book, but whatever, I guess we can't focus on it too much, because the book has a lot of redeeming elements to it, there's all of this kind of commentary on Italy, there's this kind of general kind of philosophical musing, and there's the football. And much like the Joe McGinniss book, Tim Parks makes this football come alive. And much like you, Al, I was absolutely riveted. I only managed to finish this today. First of all, it's 450 pages. For me, reading a book 450 pages within a couple of weeks on top of work and children and all the rest of it is a bloody challenge. It didn't have to be quite so long, but yeah, right at that end, it really, 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 there's such an upswerve towards the end, and you're thinking these guys are out. And this book, as good as it is, it's going to kind of peter out. But then there's twists and then there's turns, and anyway, that's all of the fun stuff that you expect in Italian football as well. It's very partisan. There's violence. There's a lot about refs. And there's a lot about corruption.
Yeah, to get to the end of a book, which is, again, just absolutely dovetails with the miracle of Castel di Sangro. They're talking about the so-called fixed games at the end of a season that they have in Italy. But here, he's just fucking yearning for it. Right? Please fix the game. Please fix the game in my favour. And in all honesty, at that point, I was like, I'm identifying more with Tim Parks than Joe McGinniss there. I really am. I just want fucking victory no matter what. I don't care how corrupt it is.
That's an interesting part or whatever difference between the two of them, isn't it? Because McGinniss was so horrified. Tim Parks was, yes, please. And there was a good line which I wrote down. If you knew a game was fixed, you wouldn't want to watch it. But if you thought it might be fixed, that makes it all the more fascinating.
That's so right. It's like, is that save real? Is that save not? Oh, it's ever. Yeah, he really is he's a fabulous writer, isn't he? As you say, he absolutely brings the game to life.
Of course, I don't know any of the differences beyond the big clashes in Italy. But Verona's big rivals are Vicenza, which I guess is a local rival. And for each different team, there's these funny different relationships. So they call Vicenza, Verona is well off, Vicenza is poorer, and they call them cat eaters. So when Vincenza come to town, they have signs that Whiskers ads and stuff like that, which is fun, isn't it? There's these other kind of weird relationships that confused me. There are teams that they're kind of, this is his expression, twinned with, where they have a good relationship with them. And these are the more vile teams in Italy, like Lazio, because they're friendly on some kind of racist level. But that doesn't exist in English football. As in, okay, I'm not saying racism doesn't, but like, there's not like Nottingham Forest doesn't have a team that they're like cousins with or anything like that.
No, they absolutely don't. Yeah, that's absolutely right. Yeah, Lazio, they sympathise with. Inter Milan, they sympathise with. Yeah, and it is on a...
And Fiorentina.
Yeah, and it is on a... Yeah, they're racist scumbags as well, so we like them. So they have a truce with them all. And at one point in the Inter Milan game, the truce gets broken, right? They're like... And so that's it. Like, someone comes on, like, sort of says, the friendship is over. It's like that meme. It's like, my friendship with Hassan is now ended. I am now best friends with this. And then they all fight. Like, hey, go on.
Well, so, rather than going through all the games, maybe we could talk about a couple of his philosophical points, and then maybe we can follow the denouement towards the end of this episode, because it really does get spicy at the end. But let me put a couple of the philosophical questions to you and tell me what you think. Because I wholeheartedly agree with this particular sentiment. This is a quote, the more I think about football, the more I am convinced that injustice is an essential part of it. The fan thirsts for injustice. The Verona fan, or indeed the fan of any small team, is lucky he gets it, which is a good line. But I do think that, and he's talking about, at one point he's watching some television, talking heads thing, and they're talking about the need for technology. Obviously, in the years since, we've had VAR, and that has just made things worse and worse. And maybe it's made the injustice kind of ludicrous. But that was always I always thought that was the reason for no technology or whatever, and to avoid technology, is that injustice is part of it. It's that kind of, that's so central to football, isn't it?
Well, that's absolutely right. I mean, I think the other day, Forest, we lost 2-0, well outplayed at Newcastle, but it's like, the fucking foul on Morgan Gibbs-White before their first goal. You sort of ignore the rest of the shots on target with Newcastle. It's like, if it wasn't that fucking foul on them, fucking rat. Yeah, you absolutely do. It makes you feel better. It's like, we didn't lose, we're not worse, it's just the world's against us.
And the other kind of philosophical thing, and it's maybe... that is what that comes from, is Tim Parks essentially says that football has replaced religion. For a lot of people, it's more important than politics because they couldn't be bothered, they're not interested. And obviously it's a substitute for war, or it's the closest you get to war. So it's a way for you to kind of play out maybe some kind of fantasies, which, as I said, I think Tim Parks is doing himself.
Well, the Bishop of Verona, upon reading this book, in Italian it's called Questa Pazza Fede, the Crazy Faith, suggested that anyone who owned the book should burn it.
Oh.
Yep, Bishop of Verona. Well, so, Johnny, what were you saying?
So, this is another great line, and it's in the context of a fan who lives with his mother, and his mother is taking kind of too much of an interest in her son's love life. The fella's in his 20s, we'll say. So this is the quote. I wonder how many among us were basically phobic young men who came to football to demonstrate to themselves that they weren't entirely without courage, even if they did find it impossible to confront their mothers.
He's absolutely right. Yeah, there's one spell where they're trying to persuade a fan to come and watch. He's but my girlfriend won't let me. It's like, come on, grow a fucking backbone, go and watch him. Oh, but she doesn't want me to go. Oh, grow a backbone.
By the way, Al, how much of yourself did you see in these fans?
I mean, a lot, Johnny. And I think, that's it. I never went to away. I certainly never travelled with, I've been to about 3 away games in my life. But if you did it every week, oh, mate, you'd be on board, wouldn't you? It would be easy to be radicalised by that to the point where you're an absolute nutcase. Yeah,
well, people talk about how people lose the capacity to think independently when they're in groups of a certain amount. And I guess this stirs up people's emotions to quite an insane degree. One of the main things in the book as well is there's a boards or a message board called The Wall, which he goes on after he's on it all the time. And I guess it's kind of like, it's like what we know about Twitter now, I guess, that it brings out all the worst in people. They're just saying all of this vile stuff. Very funny, a lot of it quite vile on this message board. And then he meets some of them in person and they're just totally normal people. It's very funny, isn't it?
Yeah, there's a lot about the absolute awfulness of a chanting that the Hellas Verona's come up, which he absolutely, I mean, he's just saying it's awful, but it is funny. So just for one, and this is fairly innocent because it's just at the bus driver, and my God, you wouldn't want to be a bus driver when the old Squadra Giella Blue get on, like, it's awful. Here's the English translation. The driver drives as bold as a coot. On the road, he crashes through toll booths. Indifferent egghead brute. Power the mother that shot you.
And Barry, the bus driver, was just like some 35-year-old guy with a full head of hair. It was just an unassuming dude. It just stared at the front of the bus. I don't know, is he chortling along to this or what? Like,
no, that's it. Me saying, like, he's just a bus driver driving along. He's like, oh, your daughter's being fucked right now. So, no, I'm just driving the bus. I'm not listening. Oh, lovely, lovely stuff. I mean, some of the chants, oh, baby. There's one which is the one he talks about. There was a serial killer around this time.
From Verona as well, right? He buried 8 sex workers in his garden.
And yeah, has nothing to do with this football, but the chant is just to Guantanamera, and it's like, Steven in, he buried his whores in his garden with his spade. And he's like going along, singing this to people, singing it to his wife and his colleagues at work, and they're all chortling along. And he's like, why? Why is this funny? Why?
I was talking to a friend of mine recently. He's a little bit older than me, and he's got kids that are a little bit older than mine. And he was saying that your kids will see if you like something, and they're kind of naturally kind of being drawn to it. So he was talking about, he plays music, and his kids are really into the music now, and they're really drawn to it because he says that they know if you're kind of faking, but if you really like something, they'll say, oh, there's something to this, and they might kind of pursue it. But I really felt for Michelle or Michele or whatever the son's name. He sees his dad on this Class A substance, and he's, yeah, I want a bit of that. But poor Michele, he just can't handle it. He talks about the absolute kind of crushing tedium of the week around Christmas when there's no football. So they go for a walk up in the woods, and poor Michelle just goes wandering off, gets lost. They're up in this mountain, and suddenly it's storming. He's like, shit, where is Michelle? And he finds morose Michelle after wandering off, and he's got a rock, and he's scratching into some big pane of like ice on the floor. Juve de merda. Juve merda.
Man, Italians hate Juventus, eh? They're the hunchbacks.
Yeah, and that's because apparently hunchbacks are somehow lucky.
Yeah, I've heard that. Can I talk about some of the other chants, Johnny?
Yeah, give me more chance. Go on.
All right, so this is what he talks about. So it's like the ringleader of the Brigate Giella Blu. They're playing Udinese, and they're like, oh, we need a chant which is really going to get them. And they're trying to think, oh, mothers, daughters. And then someone pipes out and goes, in 1976, there was an earthquake to this region and 250,000 people died. There it is. There it is. So there they're going. That's their chant. Terra matati. You just terra matati, which means earthquake. And like, it just like, there you go. And he's like, all this did was get the Udinese fans totally fucking riled up, and it was a big advantage to Udinese. But it's just like searching for the little details which will inflame the passion.
Like he was saying there would undoubtedly have been people in the ground who would have had family members who died in this, or some kind of,
250,000 dead.
Yeah, so yeah, it is violent as you say, but it did make me want to go and watch football. It's like
very much. I mean, there was. I think I WhatsApped you about this before. I mean, there was a chant for Juventus, Onore Liverpool regarding Heysel, which genuinely made me gasp. It made me gasp with its tastelessness. And another one, which is a bit less tasteless, but nonetheless, against Napoli, Forza Etna. Go on, earthquake. No, go on, volcano. Because they hate the South, right, Johnny? They hate the South. Disgusting, disgusting South of it.
And that is very relevant then as we get to the football. So you have this amazing kind of situation where everything, as we're learning now, reading these books, there's a north-south divide in Italy. I guess the divide in England is north-south as well, isn't it?
But it's the reverse, right? Like the northern people are the scum. I don't mean that. But that's how it's seen, isn't it? Like northern people are more like working class, whereas the southers are the sophisticates.
Yeah. So the sophisticates from Verona, but there's this weird situation, I guess, ultimately where the season comes to this amazing kind of denouement or crescendo, but there's a certain way it can play out where there'll be no teams left from the south. So Naples, Bari, Regina, these are all Lecce. They all play in the south and they're all fighting relegation. And of course, this feeds an incredible amount of paranoia and conspiracy theories. The other thing is there's an upstart team. Tim Parks, what he does well he does many things well, to be fair, but he says halfway through the book, I haven't been able to tell you this until now, but there is another team in Verona called Chievo Verona, and they've come from nothing, but they're on the verge of coming up to Serie A. And what the establishment, whoever the establishment are, they want to get rid of Hellas Verona, replace them with Chievo Verona, and of course not have a situation where there are no teams from the south left. So everybody is madly paranoid going into the conclusion of this.
I mean, as I said before, I've read this book before, and that bit about Chievo Verona is the bit I remember the most. That's what I remembered, like, just like 2/3 of the way, but it's like, by the way, there's another team in Verona who are so fucking hateful, I didn't want to mention them, but I can't ignore them because they're doing really well and could get promoted, but I didn't want to mention them because they're just such scum. And he really means it. Like, I just remember that. It's like, oh, there's another team, eh? You failed to mention that for like 300 pages. It was like, ah. And that they get better and better and better. They're winning their league, which means the prospect of Chievo replacing Hellas in Serie A becomes more and more real, and the dread grows and grows and only adds to the tension. Oh, it's marvellous.
Al, who would you say that in terms of fans, who would you say of all fans of football in Italy, he reserves his most hate for, or he is most hateful towards?
I'm going to say Juventus. Is that what you wanted?
It's kind of right, but what kind of Juventus fan?
Oh, it's the fan who doesn't come from that town.
Well, specifically, yeah, exactly, but specifically, it's a fan from Verona of Juventus or AC Milan. He absolutely loathes them. It's so visceral his hatred towards these people.
No, it's wonderful. It's like, how could you possibly, not buy into this? I mean, I do agree. I think you should. I mean, it's difficult for Irish people, isn't it? But like, I mean, I have a good deal of contempt for anyone born in Nottingham who doesn't support one of the Nottingham teams. I mean, come on, what you doing? What you doing? What do you want from your life? Just eternal glory? Is that what you want? It's about integrity, fucking integrity. Another thing which I thought was fun, he talked about the not mentioning Chievo Verona. There's one line in the book where he says, Verona, alas, was knocked out of the Italian Cup in September in a manner so distressing, I chose not to mention it. I fucking searched it down, Johnny. I've been all over, like 2000, 2001. They were knocked out of the Italian Cup by Piacenza Calcio, a 4th division team. He just doesn't even mention it. It doesn't say anything about it. Just says it's too distressing to mention. Well, I looked it up, and there it is. Very embarrassing.
And there's a couple of occasions where they've had a drubbing or they've lost in particularly galling circumstances, and rather than write about it, he copies and pastes an email from this particular guy who started sending him another fan. This guy, is it Matteo, who sends him these match reports he's doing for whatever reason, and he says, I can't talk about this, so here's Matteo's match report. I can't deal with writing about it, so here you go.
But these match reports are really, really good as well. Like they're really, really good.
Well, I thought that was also bullshit because the writing style was so similar to Tim Parsons.
He is a translator, right? That's what he does. That's what he does a lot of the time. He translates from Italian to English. So in his defense, that's bound to creep in a little bit.
Yeah, okay.
Speaking of writing, he gets a little bit of access to the manager, who is described mid-season by Martin Larsson, the manager whose name is Attilio Perotti, as totally useless. We ignore everything he says. He says that midway through the season. There's one point where he's sat next to the manager on a plane, and the manager is so unhappy he's sat next to this Tim Parks fella. And then he pulls out his book. It's Ken Follett. I just got such a kick out of that shot. Pull out your old Follett. There couldn't be a more middle-aged man's reading material in the whole world. Good old Ken Follett.
Just going back to Martin Larsson, and this was an interesting part of the book. And maybe this is where he's another part where he's different to McGinniss. Parks observes a few times that there's absolutely nothing exceptional about footballers other than what they can do on the field. And he says meeting them is often really kind of underwhelming or anticlimactic, I suppose. Because you meet them and they're just normal dudes with normal lives and whatever, normal concerns and all the rest of it. And I like this line. He met Martin Larsson, as you said. And Martin Larsson was very nice. And this is when he gave him the quote you mentioned. And he was talking about how Larsson was so earnest about talking about what's going on with like his job, his life, his career. And Tim Parks says, footballers never seem to realise how absurd it is that the rest of us take football so seriously, which is quite confusing, really, when you think about it. But it is true. It is absolutely absurd. And I guess, Martin, like these guys, there's a little, it must have been about a page where he describes a footballer and who a footballer is in their life and what they do. And they live in this totally cosseted world. And I suppose they're involved in something that is so elevated to this, as he says, absurd level that I guess for most of these guys who've kind of, a lot of them have abandoned education and have pursued this, they've no basis really for questioning why the fuck is everybody taking this so seriously. It is interesting, I think.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And I'd say I remember that bit about Hellas Verona, but I remembered that opening to the chapters, like these players who are the best of their school and then they're the best at that, who've only ever lived this life. I remember just that giving me a new perspective on who a footballer was, like how different their lives were to, say, yours and mine, like all the things they didn't do because they were pursuing football.
And he says that, you know, a lot of them end up going, you know, marrying young, which we know they end up with some impossibly beautiful woman who's maybe a failed model and understands whatever mental turmoil of whatever a footballer has to deal with. It was interesting. Even it was probably, you know, it's a bit of a generalization, I assume, but it was interesting.
Yeah, it was interesting. Can we talk a little bit about the sexual politics very quickly? Yeah, this is a man who's not a fan of a women's game. This is just very interesting. This is how attitudes have changed. Now, he talks about one point, they had this goalkeeper, Sebastian Frey. Do you remember him? I think I do remember him. But anyway, he's a big, sexy goalkeeper, and he was with Hellas Verona when they got promoted the season before. And he talks about how all the women just went absolutely nuts for him. There's a really dodgy quote. It must be a strange buzz girls get from following football. The few times I've watched the women's game, I just felt confused. He didn't know if he should be supporting them or he should be feeling horny. He didn't know what to do. It's like, do I want to see them score a goal or should I just imagine them with their clothes falling off? I don't know. He doesn't know how to follow the thing.
Oh, you know, he knows what he's doing. He definitely knows what he's doing.
All right. And there's one more bit about sexy stuff, which was absolutely compelling at the time, but I just saw it from a different angle. So the Brigate Yellow Blue, they're on a train traveling to a game, I can't remember what, and they're going wild. So Tim Parks goes to find another part of the train to sit in, and he sits down opposite this young, attractive girl. And because he's sat down next to her, this attracts over all the other fans, and they start giving this girl, whose name is Gabby, just endless banter, at best banter, right? And they're like, show us your panties, show us your tits, show us your bra strap. And he's there going, oh, I'm concerned about how this is going to go over. Oh, you know, is something bad going to happen? And he sees himself as this impartial observer. And in the end, it ends quite sweetly. They give her a flag and they tell her to lay on the bed and have sex with her husband, sex with her boyfriend, laying on this flag while shouting Hellas. And so, I mean, I guess that is as well as it could have ended, really, is the way it was going. But in his mind, Tim Parks is like the guy there that can calm it down. But I wonder, when this young girl saw this 50-year-old man affiliated with his football team come and sit opposite her, was she thinking, oh, look at this harmless man? She was thinking, oh, fuck off. Fuck off to you, you horny old cunt. Leave me alone. But he's there going, I was here to protect Gabby from the other awful people who I'd brought into her sphere. I just thought it was very interesting. But as I say, it gets really wild. Like, her boyfriend is like a Napoli fan from the south. And they're all, oh no, fucks for Southerner. Oh, and a Napoli fan at that.
Yeah, I felt worried for her. I really did I felt worried for her. I was happy when she got off the train.
Yeah, I just thought it was funny that Tim Parks somehow saw her. He saw himself as her saviour. She was not thinking that.
Tim Parks was there licking his chops.
Yeah, that's it. Just a horny English bloke. He was probably get your tits out as well, but he didn't write it in his book, did he? No.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, let's talk about the football, because that's towards the end. This is what that was when they were going to play against Napoli. For a lot of the first half of the season, Verona are like 5th, 6th, 7th bottom. But as the season goes on, they get worse and worse and worse. And 3 go down automatically, and a 4th and 5th team have to play off, and whoever wins doesn't go down, and the loser goes down. So that's what's at stake. And, you hear about them going to Juve, to Roma. Roma is where that riot was, you mentioned. And Lazio, all these things. And there's interesting stuff about each club. But the clubs that are involved at the bottom are, as I mentioned earlier, Vicenza, Napoli, Regina, Lecce, Perugia.
Yep.
They have, I think, 5 consecutive losses from around the 9th game out. Like, you lose 5 games in a row, you are in trouble, right? And that puts them 5 points from safety with
3 games to play.
3 games to go. So you're thinking at this point, he has lost hope. Tim Parks has said he has lost hope. Later in the next game, when they go down, he realized that he hadn't fully lost hope. And he was only kind of telling himself he'd lost hope so he wouldn't hope. But that was actually rock bottom, which I thought was a whole pile of fun. So then amazingly, 3 games to go, 5 points from safety. They go 4-1 up against Bologna. But this Hellas team, it sounds like they're quite a team to follow, because they can't do anything in any kind of straightforward way. They win that game 5-4 after giving away like a 3-goal lead. And they just managed to crawl over the line. But that leaves them with 2 games to go and 2 points from safety. So then you're thinking, it really does read like a script. There's no way that they can get out of this, because it doesn't even seem real. You're making this shit up, Tim Parks. This didn't happen. Come on. Exactly like Castel de Sangro,
Yeah, that's it. It's all the way through the book. It's like, oh God, they're ruining my book. It's going to be a book about relegation. Oh no. But yeah, the denouement, as you say, is so thrilling. I mean, the writing about that, is it the Bari game, the 5-4? Is it Bari?
Bologna.
I mean, it's just so thrilling. It's like, please just fucking get it over the line, lads. Blow your fucking whistle, Red. Blow your whistle.
When you catch your eyes kind of wandering down the page, or try to stop your eyes from wandering down the page. It's like Joey from Friends when he has to put the book in the freezer, when he's reading Little Women.
That's for Shining. He puts The Shining in the freezer. Put Little Women in the freezer.
No, he does, because they make him read Little Women in the same episode. That's what happens. He had been reading The Shining. It was the only book he'd ever read or something. And then they make him read Little Women, and he's weeping.
Well, I dispute that, but we'll get back to it. I certainly don't want to be arguing about Friends. Oh dear. Okay, that's great.
Why? What's wrong with Friends at the moment?
No, nothing wrong with Friends. Just makes us look a bit better.
Well, we should start following an Italian football team so we can convince ourselves that we're not cowards.
Johnny, if I had unlimited money, that is precisely what I would do. I would follow Fiorentina home and away for a year. If money wasn't an issue, this is what I want to do now with my life. I want to do that.
Okay, their second last game is against Parma. So the club is owned by this guy, Pastorella. Pastorella is from the Vicenza, the city of their most hated rivals, and the fans all hate Pastorella. They say he bought it to make money. He's not putting in enough money.
And by the way, this lad brought in, again, it's worth reiterating, Camoranesi, Gilardino, Odo, Mutu. I mean, it's some fucking team he's got there that he's put together, this Pastorello. He often gets vaffanculo, fuck off Pastorello. And it hurts him, right? He says it hurts him. He leaves the games because they're all shouting fuck off, so he does.
He had worked for Parma, and apparently he was loaned, he was lent money by the owners of Parma to buy Verona, to buy Hellas. But then their second last game was against Parma. And a lot of the racist stuff had blown up against Parma because it was specifically Lilian Thuram who they had been doing the monkey chants against earlier in the season. But at this point, they're hoping that this game is fixed. They don't want Parma to actually compete in the game. So Tim Parks is just praying that nobody will be racist because that might rile up the Parma fans, which is just fucking insane that this is the reason he doesn't want them to be racist. But anyway, they go into this game and, well, I guess they win it, right? They win 2-1 against Parma. Buffon is in goal. It's like Parma in that period before all those players were bought. So Parma is owned by the company, the family that owned Parmalat, is it like it's a food company, right? But
yeah,
the stadium, the team came out of nowhere. Or the stadium held like 22,000 people. So it's just kind of a creation of this family. But anyway, there's a lot of suspicions and accusations of bribery. But that leaves them, like in this situation, finally poised. The last day of the season, 5 teams can go down, Al. He says that there are at play 240 different permutations that can happen in between wins and draws in these 5 different teams. And they're all playing big teams. They're playing against Milan, Parma, Lazio, but Verona are playing at home against Perugia. All the rest of them are playing against big teams. So they're thinking and Verona they're not in the relegation zone. They're a little bit safer. But there's some cynical, some fan who sits in front of me calls the kind of cynic or whatever, and that guy is just saying, "Don't worry, all of the teams will win. As in, all of the teams struggling will win. They will all beat Milan and Lazio or whatever." But they do. They all win. This is unbelievable. Like, this is against, with the exception of maybe the Verona home game against Perugia, this is very much against the form book. They all win. So it finishes at this ridiculous situation. So Verona are also one of the teams that win.
And he analyses all these results and picks out the ones he thinks were fixed and the ones that he thinks weren't fixed. It's just delicious to do that. We see this goal, I think, that was evidence of, it's just brilliant.
But then it finishes with this incredible situation where at the end they don't really know because all these teams are on similar points. And so specifically there's 3 teams, I think, on 37 points. And they don't know which of these goes into the playoff. But it is Verona. And they're going to play against Regina in Calabria. And Calabria, I've been to Calabria when I was a kid. It's the toe of Italy. And, this is the deep, deep south, I guess. And apparently the week before, when Regina were losing 1-0 to AC Milan, the acting president of AC Milan was threatened with a knife or gun, no one seems to know, at halftime. He swiftly left the stadium. And then the match ended in a draw and Regina got the point to put them into this playoff. But it's a 2-legged playoff. At this point, Tim Parks, he is a broken man mentally. How is he going to survive? How is he going to survive this 2-leg playoff? It was incredible, really.
Yeah, and I think we should say no more about that. That we won't spoil that much, right?
Oh, really? You don't want to say what happens in the very end? Okay.
No, let's leave it up. Let's leave it up. It's easily find-outable, but it is an absolute fabulous crescendo to the book, isn't it? It really is a wonderful way to end it.
Like Castel di Sangro, but perhaps even more so because just the looming threat of violence around the pitch in Killarney is incredible. Just to kind of, it's quite a dark atmosphere, but it is like a film. It is like a film, and I guess the closest we've ever seen in a film is Escape to Victory with the Nazis and Sylvester Stallone.
Still the best football movie, with maybe ID, but we'll need to rewatch it. Yeah.
Well, suffice it to say, we like that book, eh?
Yeah, I really did. I really, really, really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it more second time around. And just the way it dovetailed with our previous book, Miracle of Castel di Sangro, just made it so interesting. Yeah, these gut lads are absolute fucking thugs, but you can't help but love some of them. It's a load of fun. Just so much fun. Yeah, this is a 4.5-star book for me, Johnny. Maybe even 5.
I got to start
on you, sorry, Johnny. I'm going 5-star. 2 5-star books. Lovely.
Oh, I don't think it's as good as Castel di Sangro, but it is a fantastic book. Yeah, I'm on. Okay, I'm going to say 4.5. I'm going to go 4.5. Be a miserable old fucker about it, but it is this is a fantastic book, and I wish I wasn't under pressure to finish it. I wish I was sitting on a beach reading this, because I struggle to finish these things in time. But it's a great read, and it's a whole pile of fun. Maybe I can say on a principle level I'm taking off a 0.5 star because he is kind of maybe a closet racist, or at least maybe the whole thing about this is that football permits people to live out this fantasy world where they can say the stuff that they're not allowed to say, or at least this is how we saw football at the time. And you can be a person that you're not usually. Maybe that's the whole point. And that if that is the point, it's certainly what Tim Parks is doing, I think.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, yes, I think that's right. Where he never doesn't condone racism, but he doesn't condemn it either. But nonetheless, 5 Ken Follett novels out of 5.
I didn't expect that.
I love the boy Follett.
You've mentioned Follett. I've never read a Follett book. They're huge, aren't they?
Yeah, they are, but they're easy reading. It's a lot of fun. There's one, where they build a cathedral in England. I fucking love those books. I've read every single one.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Al. That was a whole pile of fun. We're back next with Michael Owen, I believe.
Oh, yeah.
From the sublime to the ridiculous.
Oh, can't wait for that one, Johnny. Oh, Michael Owen. Well, he is famously interesting. It'll be great, folks. It'll be great. And we're back next week with the Dynamo Football Book Club Injury Time, where we're doing a hair shirt 5-a-side for Johnny. So Johnny will pick 5 of the best current Manchester United players. I will pick 5 currently playing United players who've left United, and we will battle off how bad are United at recruitment and selling. Very, I would suggest.
But that's it. Thank you very much, folks, and we will catch you soon. Thank you very much for listening.